day. Day? Sorry. Good day everyone, I am Rolito Ribaldi Limpag Jr. and today we are going to talk about the cry of rebellion. Now what is cry of rebellion? The Philippine Revolution against over 300 years of Spanish rule began with Andres Bonifacio, leader of the Katipunan, a secret revolutionary society that sought independence for the Philippines from Spanish colonial rule. In August 1896, in the city of Pugadlawin in Balintawak, now part of Quezon City, the Katipuneros led by Andres Bonifacio rose up in revolt by tearing apart their cedulas, which became a sign of enslavement of the Filipinos. This event, called the Cry of Pugadlawin, officially regarded as the start of the Philippine Revolution against Spain with the use of violence and arms. Definition of the cry. The word cry comes from the Spanish El Grito de Rebelión or Cry of Rebellion or El Grito for short. Thus, the Grito de Balintawak is similar to the Grito de Dolores of Mexico in 1810. But the El Grito de Rebelión strictly refers to a decision or call to revolt. It doesn't necessarily mean shouting, unlike the Filipino term sigaw or sigaaw. Originally, the term cry referred to the first clash between the members of Katipunan and the civil guards or Guardia Civil. The cry could also refer to the tearing up of cedulas or community tax certificates in resistance to Spanish government. The cry can also be referred to in the inscriptions of Viva la Independencia Filipina, which was literally accompanied by patriotic shouts. Where did the cry of rebellion happen? Momentous events with the Spanish colonies in the late 19th century, including the Philippines. Journalists of the time referred to the phrase El Grito de Rebelión or Cry of Rebellion to mark the start of these revolutionary events, identifying the places where it happened. In the Philippines, this happened in August 1896 northeast of Manila, where they declared rebellion against the Spanish colonial government. These events are important markers in the history of colonies that struggled for their independence against their colonizers. The controversy regarding this event stems from the identification of the date and place where the cry happened. Prominent Filipino historian Teodoro Agoncillo emphasizes the event when Bonifacio tore the cedula or tax receipt before the Katipuneros who also did the same. Some writers identified the first military event with the Spaniard as the moment of the cry, for which Emilio Aguinaldo commissioned an Himno de Balintawak to inspire the renewed struggle after the Pact of the Biak na Bato failed. A monument to the heroes of 1896 was erected in what is now the intersection of Epifanio de los Santos or EDSA Avenue and Andres Bonifacio Drive North Diversion Road, and from then on until 1962. The Cry of Balintawak was celebrated every 26th of August. The site of the monument was chosen for an unknown reason.
The different dates and places of the cry. The cry, defined as a turning point when the Filipinos finally refused Spanish colonial dominion over the Philippine Islands. With tears in their eyes, the people as one man pulled out their cedulas and tore them into pieces, as a sign of enslavement of the Filipinos. It was the beginning of the formal declaration of the separation from Spanish rule. There are different versions to consider in knowing the real date and place of the cry. These include Pio Valenzuela's controversial Cry of Pugadlawin, Santiago Alvarez, The Cry of Bahay Toro, Gregoria de Jesus' version of the first cry, and Guillermo Masangkay's The Cry of Balintawak. It is surprising that there are different versions and the dates of the cry of the revolution as well as the venue. The controversy up to this time remains unsolved. Why there are several accounts of the cry? For the dates, this is due to Bonifacio's movement from different places from time to time in invading the Spanish government who were pursuing the Katipuneros. This explains why there are several accounts of the cry. Various accounts of the cry give different dates and places. A Guardia Civil Lieutenant Olegario Diaz identified the cry to have happened in Balintawak on August 25, 1896, while Teodoro Calao, a Filipino historian, marks the place to be in Kangkong, Balintawak on the last week of August 1896. Santiago Alvarez, a Katipunero and son of Mariano Alvarez, leader of the Magdiwang faction in Cavite, put the cry in Bahay Toro in Quezon City on August 24, 1896. While Pio Valenzuela, known Katipunero and privy to many events concerning the Katipunan, stated that the cry happened in Pugad Lawin on August 23, 1896. Historian Gregorio Zaida identified the cry to have happened in Balintawak on August 26, 1896, while Teodoro Agoncillo put it at Pugad Lawin on August 23, 1896 according to statements by Pio Valenzuela. Research by historians Milagros Guerrero, Emmanuel Encarnacion, and Ramon Villegas claim that the event took place in Tandangsora's barn in Gulod, Barangay Banlat on August 24, 1896. The three accounts on Cry of Revolution. The three primary sources are the accounts of Santiago Alvarez, Pio Valenzuela, and Guillermo Masangkay. They participated in the revolution as the witnesses on the happenings during the revolution. So, who is Guillermo Masangkay? Guillermo Masangkay was one of the first members of the Katipunan. He was born on June 25, 1867 in Tondo, Manila and died on May 30, 1963. A general of Katipunan, friend and advisor of Andres Bonifacio, and Guillermo Masangkay is one of the witnesses of the cry of Balintawak. So according to Guillermo Masangkay's account, on August 26, a big meeting was held in Balintawak at the house of Apolonio Samson, then cabeza of that barrio of Caloocan. Among those who attended, I remember, were Bonifacio, Emilio Jacinto, Aguedo del Rosario, Tomas Remigio, Bricio Pantas, Teodoro Plata, Pio Valenzuela, Enrique Pacheco, and Francisco Carrion. They were all leaders of the Katipunan and composed the board of directors of the organization. Delegates from Bulacan, Cabanatuan, Cavite, and Morong were also present.
Okay, so at the 9 o'clock of the morning in August 26, the meeting was opened with Andres Bonifacio presiding and Emilio Jacinto acting as a secretary. The purpose was to discuss the uprising was to take place. Teodoro Plata, Bricio Pantas, and Pio Valenzuela were all opposed to starting the revolution too early. Andres Bonifacio, sensing that he would lose the discussion, then left the session hall and talked to the people who were waiting outside for the result of the meeting of the leaders. He told the people that the leaders were arguing against starting the revolution early, and appealed to them in a fair speech, in which he said, "You remember the fate of our countrymen who were shot in Bagumbayan. Should we return now to the towns, the Spaniards will only shoot us. Our organization has been discovered, and we are all marked men. If we don't start the uprising, the Spaniards will get us anyway. What then do you say? Revolt," the people shouted as one. Bonifacio then asked the people to give the pledge that they were to revolt. He told them that the sign of slavery of the Filipino were the cedula tax charged each citizen. "If it is true that you are ready to revolt, I want you to destroy your cedulas. It will be a sign that all of us have declared our severance for the Spaniards." Okay, so dito yon nangyari yung sinabi ni Andres Bonifacio ang linya na punitin ang sedula. So ang meaning doon is pinutol na ng mga Pilipino ang kanilang relationship or communication sa mga Spaniards. Several events occurred to strengthen the unity of the Filipino people and brought the thirst for independence. These include the Cavite Mutiny of 1872, martyrdom of the Gamborza propaganda movements, and different peaceful campaigns for reform. Dr. Rizal's exile in Dapitan. The foundation and the discovery of the KKK or Kataas-Taasan Kagalang-galangang Katipunan ng mga Anak ng Bayan or Supreme Venerable Association of the Children of the Nation.
Death and Legacy. What we'll discuss: the cry of rebellion in Pugadlawin marked in the beginning of the Philippine Revolution in 1896. It led to Philippine independence in 1898. After Bonifacio's death on May 10, 1897 at Maragondon, Cavite, General Emilio Aguinaldo continued the revolution. Aguinaldo declared the independence of the Philippines from Spain on June 12, 1898 at Kawit, Cavite. On August 26, a big meeting was held in Balintawak at the house of Apolonio Samson, then cabeza of that barrio of Caloocan. Among those who attended, I remember were Andres Bonifacio, Emilio Jacinto, Aguedo del Rosario, Tomas Remedio, Bricio Pantas, Teodoro Plata, Vio Valenzuela, Enrique Pacheco, and Francisco Carrion. They were all leaders of Katipunan and composed the board of directors of organization. Delegates from Bulacan, Cabanatuan, Cavite, and Morong were also present. About 9 o'clock in the morning of August 26, the meeting was opened with Andres Bonifacio presiding and Emilio Jacinto acting as secretary. The purpose was to discuss when the uprising was to take place. Teodoro Plata, Bricio Pantas, and Vio Valenzuela were all opposed to starting the revolution too early. Andres sensed to lose the discussion and left the session hall and talked to the people. He told the people that the leaders were arguing against starting the revolution early. He said, "You remember the fate of our countrymen who were shot in Bagumbayan. Should we return now to the towns? The Spaniards will only shoot us. Our organization has been discovered and we are all marked men. If we don't start the uprising, Spaniards will only get us anyway. What then do you say?" "Revolt!" the people shouted as one. Andres Bonifacio asked to the people to give a pledge that they were to revolt, destroying the cedula tax charged to each citizen represent the severance from the Spaniards, since it was the sign of slavery of the Filipinos from them. The first place of refuge of Andres Bonifacio, Emilio Jacinto, Procopio Bonifacio, Teodoro Plata, Aguedo del Rosario was Balintawak, the first 5 arriving there on August 19, and Pio Valenzuela on August 20, 1896. On August 22, 1896, 500 members of Katipunan met at their first place at Kangkong, Balintawak. 1,000 members of Katipunan met in the carried out considerable debate and discussion on August 23, 1896 at Pugadlawin, the house, the storehouse, and yard of Juan Ramos, son of Melchora Aquino. After the meeting, many of those present tore their cedula certificates and shouted, "Long live the Philippines! Long live the Philippines!" However, there is a disagreement among historical witnesses as to the place and time of the occurrence of the cry. Using primary and secondary sources, 4 places have been identified: Balintawak, Kangkong, Pugadlawin, and Bahay Toro, while the dates varied 23rd, 24th, 25th, or 26th on August 1896. Inconsistencies of accounts were seen upon defying with the primary sources. According to Guerrero, Encarnacion, and Villegas, all these places are in Balintawak, then part of Caloocan now in Quezon City. As for the dates, Bonifacio and his troops may have been moving from one place to another to avoid being located by the Spanish government, which could explain why there are several accounts of the cry. Thank you for listening.